ECS, EKS, Fargate. If those 3 letters have ever made your head spin, you're in the right place, because almost everyone gets this wrong. They treat ECS, EKS, and Fargate like 3 competing choices, as if you pick one. You don't. 2 of them are orchestrators, and one of them isn't an orchestrator at all. It's a way of running your containers. Once you see that, the whole thing clicks. In this deep dive, we'll untangle containers on AWS, with pictures, what a container even is, what orchestration means, ECS versus EKS, and exactly where Fargate fits, so you'll know precisely which to pick for any app. First, what is a container? Picture shipping. Before standard containers, loading a ship was chaos, every item a different shape. The shipping container standardized it. One box fits any ship, any crane, any truck. A software container does the same for your app. It packs your code together with everything it needs to run, the exact libraries, the exact versions, into one sealed portable box that runs identically on your laptop, in testing and in production. No more, but it worked on my machine. And unlike a full virtual machine, a container is lightweight. It shares the host's operating system instead of carrying its own. So it starts in seconds and you can pack many onto one server. 2 quick words you'll hear constantly: image and container. An image is the blueprint, a frozen snapshot of your app and its dependencies, built once. A container is a running copy of that image. Build one image, run 100 identical containers from it. The tool that builds and runs them is Docker. And once you've built an image, you need somewhere to store it. That's a registry. On AWS, that's ECR, the Elastic Container Registry, your private, secure shelf of container images that the rest of AWS can pull from. Build the image, push it to ECR, then run it. That's the container starting line. Running one container is easy, but real apps run dozens or hundreds across many servers, and that's where it gets hard. Which server does each container go on? What happens when one crashes? Who notices and restarts it? How do you scale up at lunchtime and back down at night? How do containers find and talk to each other? That's called service discovery. How do you roll out a new version without downtime? Doing all of that by hand is impossible. The system that does it for you is called a container orchestrator. Picture it as 2 parts, a brain, called the control plane, that makes every decision: what to schedule where, what to scale, what to heal, what to update, and a set of worker machines where your containers actually run. The brain watches everything and keeps reality matched. The first orchestrator is ECS, the Elastic Container Service, and it's Amazon's own. Its biggest selling point is simplicity, really just 3 words to learn. 1, a cluster, the group of machines your containers run on. 2, a task definition. Think of it as a recipe card that says which image to run and how much CPU and memory it needs. 3, a service, which keeps the right number of copies of that task running and quietly scales and restarts them for you. That's the whole mental model. And ECS is deeply woven into AWS, load balancers, IAM, networking. Logging all just work out of the box, so there's far less to learn than the alternative. If you're an AWS-centered team the second orchestrator is EKS, the Elastic Kubernetes Service, and it's AWS's managed version of Kubernetes. Kubernetes is the open-source orchestrator that became the industry standard, enormously powerful, with a massive ecosystem of tools, and it runs anywhere: AWS, other clouds, even your own data center. 2 quick words you'll hear in the Kubernetes world. Your containers are grouped into little bundles called pods, and those pods run on worker machines called nodes, new names for the same idea you already understand. EKS takes Kubernetes and manages the hard part, the control plane, that decision-making brain, for you, so you never have to keep it alive yourself. Now, the single biggest misconception, so listen closely, because this is the whole video. People ask, should I use ECS, EKS, or Fargate? And that question is broken. Fargate is not a third orchestrator. Fargate is a way of running your containers, a launch type, and it works with ECS or EKS, not instead of them. Think of it in 2 separate questions. Question 1, which orchestrator runs the show, ECS or EKS? Question 2, where do the containers actually run? That second question is where Fargate lives. So you don't choose between ECS, EKS, and Fargate, you choose an orchestrator and a way to run it. So let's answer that second question. Where do your containers actually run? There are 2 launch types. The first is EC2. You run a cluster of EC2 servers yourself, and your containers are packed onto them. You manage those servers, patching, scaling, capacity, in exchange for full control and, at steady high usage, lower cost. The second is Fargate, serverless containers. You don't see or manage any servers at all. You just say, run this container with this much CPU and memory. And AWS finds the capacity, runs it, and bills you per task for exactly what it uses. EC2 for control, Fargate for zero server management. Here's the whole thing in one simple grid. Down one side, your orchestrator, ECS or EKS. Across the other, your launch type, Fargate or EC2. Any combination is valid. ECS with Fargate, simple orchestrator, no servers, is the most popular starting point on AWS. ECS with EC2, simple orchestrator, your own servers. EKS with Fargate, Kubernetes, no servers to manage. EKS with EC2, full Kubernetes control. 2 questions, 2 answers, 4 combinations. Once you see the grid, ECS, EKS, and Fargate stop competing in your head because they were never the same kind of thing. So when do you actually need Kubernetes, that is EKS, over the simpler ECS? Be honest with yourself, because Kubernetes is powerful, but it isn't free in effort. Choose EKS when your team already knows Kubernetes, when you need to run the same setup across multiple clouds or on-premises for portability, or when you depend on its huge ecosystem of tools. Choose ECS when you're all in on AWS and you value simplicity and speed over portability. A good rule, if you can't name a concrete reason you need Kubernetes, you probably don't. Start with ECS, and you'll ship faster with far less to maintain. A quick word on cost, because it follows directly from the launch type. With Fargate, you pay for each running task. It's vCPU and memory, by the second, with nothing to manage and nothing wasted when tasks stop. That's perfect for spiky or unpredictable workloads, and for small teams who don't want an ops burden. With EC2, you pay for the servers in your cluster whether they're fully used or not, so if you can keep them busy, and especially if you use spot capacity, you can run large, steady workloads cheaper. The pattern, Fargate for convenience and spiky loads, EC2 for cost efficiency at steady scale. Let's make the decision dead simple. If you just want to run containers on AWS with the least hassle, ECS with Fargate. Start there, it covers most apps. If you specifically need Kubernetes for portability, your team skills, or the ecosystem, EKS, with Fargate if you want 0 servers, or EC2 if you want full control. If you need maximum control, special hardware like GPS, or the lowest cost at steady high scale, use the EC2 launch type. And if your app is just a simple web service or API, and even ECS feels like too much, look at AWS App Runner, which runs a container straight from your image with almost no setup. Let's anchor it on PhotoApp. We package the web app into a container image and push it to ECR. We don't want to babysit servers, and our traffic is spiky, busy at lunch, quiet overnight, so we run it on ECS with Fargate. We define the task, the image, its CPU, and memory, and ECS keeps the right number of copies running behind a load balancer, scaling them up and down with traffic automatically. No EC2 servers to patch, no Kubernetes to learn, pay only for the tasks actually running. If PhotoApp later needed Kubernetes for multi-cloud, we'd move to EKS. But for now, ECS plus Fargate is exactly right. Here's the whole picture in one diagram. You build a container image and store it in ECR. An orchestrator, ECS or EKS, reads your definition and decides what runs where, keeping the right number of containers healthy. Those containers actually run on your launch type, Fargate, where AWS manages the compute, or EC2, where you manage the servers. A load balancer spreads traffic across the running containers, and the orchestrator scales and heals them automatically. Notice the layers, the image is WHHHrons, the orchestrator is the brain, deciding where, and the launch type is where it physically runs. 3 different jobs, that's why they were never competing. Let's bring it together. A container is a portable box holding your app and its dependencies. You build it as an image, store it in ECR, and run many copies. To manage many containers, you need an orchestrator, and on AWS, that's a choice between ECS, simple and AWS-native, and EKS, managed Kubernetes, powerful and portable. Separately, you choose where they run, Fargate, serverless with no servers to manage, or EC2, your own servers for control and steady-state cost. Fargate is a launch type, not a third orchestrator. Pick the orchestrator, pick the launch type, and the famous ECS versus EKS versus Fargate. Confusion simply disappears. And that's containers on AWS, sorted. Not 3 rival services, just 2 clean questions, which orchestrator, ECS or EKS, and where do the containers run, Fargate or EC2? Get those 2 right and you can run anything from a tiny side project to a global platform. If this finally untangled ECS, EKS, and Fargate for you, do me a favor and subscribe to Vion Cloud. The whole point of this channel is taking the scary parts of AWS and making them simple, with pictures. Tell me in the comments what to break down next, and I'll see you in the next one.